I just watched the most, I'm not even going to say it's the most recent. I have no idea where it falls in the scheme of things. I watched a film entitled Cult of Chucky. This is part of the Child's Play franchise, and I thought it was really good. And I normally don't just, review whatever random thing I watch on cable, but I was really surprised. I had seen most of the Child's Play films, I think, or most of the Chucky films. I know there's a new TV series that's a couple of seasons in that I've not seen, and I realized that Cult of Chucky is from 2017, so I'm pretty late to the party in terms of watching it and talking about it, but it impressed me. It impressed me in that it did something different with the series, that the series as a whole has morphed and modified into something kind of different than it originally started off as. I saw the first couple Child's Plays back in the video store era. Rented them on tape because they were interesting, and my friends and I would rent horror movies on Friday nights. And I remember liking them okay. I was never a huge fan of it. I was never a huge fan of the jokey killer, which is what those became. And they eventually became straight comedies, like Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky with Jennifer Tilly. Those were flat-out goofy comedy spoofs of the Chucky films and of horror films and everything else in general. And they were okay. They weren't really my bag. And I then saw this film entitled Curse of Chucky. Got a review copy years ago on DVD, and it starred Fiona Dourif, daughter of Brad Dourif, who does the voice of Chucky in these films. And it was this really small, intimate, old-style, creepy old house spooker, and I was really impressed. I'm like, wow, they scaled it back to sort of its origins, where Chucky is this creepy thing that lurks in the shadows, and this person can't believe that this thing is after them. That film was about, I'm going to review that one too. That film, Curse of Chucky, was about a woman in a wheelchair trapped in an old house, and Chucky is after her, and I think the power goes out. So it's like, lightning and darkness, and this little thing is trying to kill you, and you have mobility issues, and how are you going to survive? And I was really impressed by that they took the film, this series that had gotten really blown into something ridiculous, and they took it way back, and they dialed it way down and made it something creepy again. And this film was a sequel to that. So 2017's Cult of Chucky, we see the Fiona Dourif character has survived Chucky from the previous film. She's now in a mental institution, a really weird, THX 1138 looking mental institution, a lot of white everywhere, with other people with various issues, and she's being, consoled and she is being given therapy to get this idea that a killer doll was trying to kill her out of her head, and the belief is that she killed the people that Chucky had killed in the previous film, and she needs to just work that out of her system. The film is really interestingly done. It, brings to mind, obviously, Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It brings to mind Bad Dreams. It brings to mind other films that are set in an institution where somebody is not believed for what they think they happen to them. They're treated as crazy, and people around them cannot be trusted because they're all, in quotes, crazy, and they're just seeing things. They're not seeing a killer doll running around. Surely not. And the film does weave in aspects of the previous movies. It brings Jennifer Tilly back in a small role. It brings Alex Vincent back, the original Andy from the first couple Child's Play movies. He's back in it. So it really ties all of the different sort of aspects and threads of these Child's Play movies back together to move forward. I thought it was good. I thought it was really well done. Fans of the previous comedic Chucky films or the earlier Child's Play films might not like it as much because it's not all Chucky all the time. But when you get Chucky, boy, do you get Chucky. It gets really gory, and it gets shockingly violent. I actually yelped at one point. I was like, God, because something happened, and I'm a horror fan. Something happened that I did not expect. And the film had been so relatively sedate and cerebral up to that point. When it let loose with the carnage, I did not expect it. It's funny. It's clever. Again, it might not be, if you're a huge fan of things like Nightmare 3 and Bad Dreams for some reason, you may just be like, it's just a ripoff. I don't know. Maybe it is just a ripoff, but watching it, it gave me something different. It didn't really give me more of the same. It took the Chucky and the idea of the man who, Charles Lee Ray, was it? The man who was the evil murderer, serial killer whose soul went into the Child's Play Chucky doll, the good guy doll. It took that into new directions that it hadn't gone before. And again, some might be like, yeah, you're doing things like other horror movie franchises did when they ran out of ideas. And the answer may be yes, as far as that is concerned. But I was just happy that it wasn't more of the same. And it again continued in that more serious vein, but it still did have aspects of comedy that the other films in the series did. Really nicely shot, you know, obviously probably not a gigantic budget, but they made the most of what they did with it. Really interesting location, really cold, snowy location shot somewhere. This asylum or facility, whatever you want to call it, that's just surrounded by snow everywhere in the middle of nowhere. And it added to that feeling of isolation, that aspect of The Thing, if you will, where it's people trapped in an area with some evil thing that's going to kill them all. They don't always know it. And it sets up for what's next. Now, I haven't seen what's next. I don't know if this set up the series Chucky or if this set up another sequel or whatever. I want to find out now, because these two, for me, Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, the one I'm talking about right now, were more interesting than the last several that had come before it for my tender sensibilities. So available now, however you get your movies out there, is 2017's Cult of Chucky.